Good morning, everyone. Oh, goodness, my voice just went. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. This is Catherine Clement in Boulder, Colorado. And I'm going to keep my camera off today, but I'm so happy to be back in the room with my family here. I've been gone for I don't know how many weeks now. I've been having to travel with work, and it's been wonderful to be traveling and have the health and the pain control to do that. But it's also been difficult to plug in here, and so I've been trying to catch up on my reading. This is the Saturday Morning Mastermind. We've been doing this for, I don't know, we can't remember, about 4 years or something like that. And we're reading the book. You want to hold that up, Dan? Thank you, dear. The Slight Edge. There's a couple of different covers for that, but it's The Slight Edge by Joel Olson. And we're on chapter 10 in the newest version, or in the Kindle version that I have. And I think in the version that Dan has there, we're in chapter 7. But basically what this chapter is talking about is that things are always in motion. There's nothing stagnant in the world. There's nothing straight. Everything, energy, everything is curved. Everything's in motion. And so it's in motion either one way or the other. So basically what it's getting down to, rock bottom, is if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. And we've heard that theme before, but he does bring out some really good points in this chapter. I think we've been starting by reading the points at the back of the book. At the back of the chapter, actually. So yeah, that's the format. So I'll go ahead and do that. But while I'm finding that spot, let me go ahead and bring everybody on and let them introduce themselves. And then I'll go back to that. Come on out.
Looks like I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Karen Lohoff. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm trying to get another screen off, so I'm kind of dinking around. But welcome to everybody. We're going to have a great discussion. It's really good to have so many people here.
I will jump out. I'm Dan Sisek. I'm here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and looking forward to the discussion and hearing what everybody has to share. So looking forward to it.
Hello, Sandy Root here in sunny Miami Beach. Beautiful day and good to see you all. Yeah, I was able to hop on in the last minute, so I'm here for a little bit.
Good morning, everybody. Christina Irvin here from Northeast Tennessee, and congratulations, Sandy, on the new product line. Excited for you. Looking forward to the discussion.
I unmuted you, Chris, if you're able to talk. Maybe not. He might not be able to. Not able to. Okay, I'm going to mute you back anyway. All right. Thank you, everybody. And yes, congratulations, Sandy. I'm so excited about your product line. I can't wait to try some of it. I know it's going on our marketplace. I'm really excited about that. And whoop, whoop, worldwide coverage for you right there. We're looking forward to watching your what are you building? It's more than a cathedral. I can just see this amazing, the word is totally escaping me. I'm sorry. Anyway, I know this dream, this vision of yours that you have been, you are a perfect example of this chapter, because what this chapter talks about is having the faith, staying focused on the positive, taking the steps, even when you don't want to, taking the steps, not hitting the snooze at 6 a.m. I happen to know you're up long before 6 a.m., pushing yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually. And it is those steps which are bringing into manifestation this amazing vision that you've been creating. I don't know how long the skincare line has even, been brewing. Sometimes things just come up and they happen just because it's just perfect divine timing and inspiration, and that's how it works. But it still takes these daily actions that we don't want to do. Like I'm being honest here. Like, these are the things that you don't want to do, and you just have to keep doing them. And you have to know, you have to keep that in vision, in sight, and leave. I mean, yeah, you have to do the daily details, but you have to kind of leave the daily details up to God too. Like, it's timing, and if you just keep taking the daily action steps, everything else falls into place. But you start slacking off on all that stuff, you start focusing on the negative, and you can pull yourself down into a nest of a place that you do not want to be. So let's go to, I'm going to jump to the end of the chapter here. Now, these are the essential points from chapter 10 in the newest version of the Slide Edge. Everything is always in motion. Every day, every moment, your life path is either curving upward or curving downward. And he has some really cool graphics about this upward downward thing. And when we see those upward curves, it's like, woohoo, cool. And then you see the downward curve and it's just as sharp. And it's like, oh no, so we don't want that. So yeah, thank you for showing that. Really cool little graph things. He points out that growing up, we heard 5 times as many no's as we did yeses. Think about that. That's powerful, actually. Just that one little sentence. You think about how accustomed you are to hearing no. And you know how the mind keeps things in there forever, like in the subconscious or something. And even if we don't find something traumatic as a child, sometimes simple words, even smells, can remind you of your childhood. I don't know if you've ever, like, I have letters that my grandmother wrote, and she always wore perfume, and so the letters smell like her. And it can take me back to so many childhood memories, just that smell. So sometimes just hearing the word no, this is important. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm rambling, but especially being an entrepreneur, we have to learn how to hear the word no without being taken back to our childhood. Like, it's really important. So he points out here that life has a downward pull. People on the success curve live in responsibility, and people on the failure curve live in blame. And I'm sure we'll get into more discussion around that. That is so true. People on the success curve are pulled by the future, and people on the failure curve are pulled by the past. Again, so true. I mean, I talk to people every day where which this is the case. No matter where you are at any moment, though, you can choose to step onto the success curve. That is the saving grace. Free will, you guys. We can make a decision and change our life in any moment of any day. So tell me what you thought about this chapter, guys. Come on out.
Well, I do think that that I get the general concept of the chapter. You know, it's basically about keeping your eyes on the prize and moving forward, and not emotionally living in the past, and not, not always thinking about the negative things that happen, not being woe is me, because life is going to happen. Things are going to happen that are unexpected. You're going to have things, the car is going to break down, something's going to break in the house. I remember a couple of months ago, we were all of a sudden brought into a conference call, and it was like, okay, so over half of our team is going to lose their jobs in a month. And so things are going to happen, but the important thing is, are you focusing on what you can do in the present to continue moving forward. And I really like the message because a lot of times people do live in the woe is me. Now, where I do think, and I haven't had an opportunity to completely read the chapter, so perhaps it spoke to it, and I just didn't get to it. But what I do think that is important is that we don't forget the past, the history, because sometimes people tend to go, I don't know what it is about this zeitgeist in the world, but everything seems to be a binary discussion and a binary decision these days, and it's driving me absolutely nuts. But for the book to be suggesting that you don't live and dwell in the past, in my mind, I think that it's important to recognize that the best way to determine what your responsibility is, what role you played in what may have happened, or what role you didn't play in, or how you can move forward. One of the best ways to do that is to be able to take an earnest assessment of what happened in the past. And there's a difference between taking an earnest assessment of what happened in the past and determining how you could differently order your steps than emotionally living in the past and essentially living in a victimhood state. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes total sense, because it made me think of when I had moved to Miami and I started my acupuncture practice here. I was comparing it to when I first got out of school in New York and was trying to build my practice there. And I sort of gave up on it there and ended up going into some internet marketing and fumbling around in different things. But then now that I look at it, I'm so grateful of the path that I did, even though I felt like I kept failing and like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to market a practice. I didn't know how to, all I wanted to do was stick needles in people. I didn't want to know, how to get patients and how to do accounting and everything that came with it. And I was like, but looking at it now, like, I thought I kept failing, but through it all and through learning internet marketing, I mean, that helped me immensely now. Like, I know so much about how to talk to people, about how to interest people, how to show my interest in people, how to, do so many things to bring people to my practice, whether it's online marketing, my practice, or whatever it is. And, so really taking those things that we think are failures or where we failed, and turning them around and taking them and learning from them, because, looking at when I first got out of school and to now, like I had no clue when I came out of school, really. And it took a lot of like trial and error to really figure out, okay, how do I make this work? How do I make this happen? And I mean, it's easy to say, forget it and try something else and give up on our dreams. And I think a lot of people do that, of course, but I kept going and going and going. And I'm like, I'm going to practice acupuncture somehow, some way. And it's finally 8 years later, like getting in the flow. So yeah, looking at the past as a tool to make the present and the future better is definitely makes sense, but not using the past as like, oh, well, I always fail or this always happens, so I'm not going to try, but using it as a tool to see where you're going and better and get better. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you said that, because even like for me, I'm having to learn that aspect. I think I'm learning some of what you have learned, Sandy, is that anything and everything I've tried or done or been involved with is only stepping stones to get me to where I want to be, but don't let the negative aspect of the failures, because I think that's what we tend to do, is we focus on the negative part of it and let that negative feed us, rather than taking it really for what okay, this is something to learn from, just a way to gauge, way to understand of kind of like Thomas Edison. I learned another way how not to, how to, burn up a light bulb, and not fully accept the failure for failure, but for just another process of how not to do something, so you get to the right learning the right process of how to do what you want to do. And I think that's something I'm still learning, even in my journey and in my process. And because I've come a long way, even just learning. And for me, the biggest thing I think I'm starting to realize is I really don't like to approach people and talk to people that I don't know. But because of some things I've been doing lately and involved with, it's kind of forced me into that box. And I'm finding it's becoming easier and easier to do. And now it's spilling over into outside areas. And it's like, oh, okay, this isn't as hard as I've always made it to be. And always kind of shied away from until I got, like the way I explain it for me is a lot of times when I first meet new people, I have a hard time talking to them and kind of standoffish. But once I get to know people, you can't shut me up, kind of like when I get in the air and stuff and things like that, you know. Um, so I'm seeing some of that growth in me and some of those things, and I take a lot of it from what I've learned from you guys too, from hearing about you guys' successes and stuff like that. So I think that's a good point, and I appreciate um, what I'm gaining out of that.
Another part that pops out in the chapter, well, I don't know how comparable it is to the other versions, chapter, book, chapter, what? I don't know what I'm saying. But there's a section in this book that says, don't complain about what you allow. And I think that statement is powerful, just that I don't even have to read the paragraph really to, show how powerful that statement is. Because if we're going to hit the snooze button and get up 2 hours late and then complain that, oh, well, I couldn't do this, I didn't get this done, or didn't, and sort of blame it on that, or complain, it's like, well, that was us, if I'm hitting snooze, then that's my thing. I can't complain that I didn't do what I had to do that was on my list. And, what you allow, and that's when we can allow either I'm going to get up early and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to make this list and I'm going to get this done and I'm going to get this done, or we can say, forget it, I'm going to snooze for a couple hours, and then that's us allowing that. And then a lot of times we complain about it. So, I thought that was an important point. Don't complain about what you allow.
Yeah, and for that actually made me started thinking about, people are quick to say, I don't have any control over that, or it's not my fault, I don't have any choice. And the truth of the matter is you have a choice. You might not like your choices, but you have a choice. And that reminded me of a conversation I was having with one of my good friends, last week, and they were talking about how they were doing some freelance work and how they really were starting to feel just the energy of the job, of the deal that they were doing was not feeling good, because they just go all out. They go above and beyond for the client, but the client only isn't paying crap really, and so they're feeling some kind of way because they're going all out doing all this extra stuff that the client never asked for. When they started the daggum deal, before they inked the deal, it was clear what the terms of the deal was going to be. And this person just has a perfectionist attitude, and they have a go above and beyond kind of attitude. And for them, the value of what they were given, if they had been if they had been the person hiring someone else, this would have been their expectations. And so I just, easily just said, look, you're feeling some kind of way. You're all in your feelings. But the truth of the matter is that The client isn't doing this to you. You're doing this to you. You're the one that's deciding to do all this extra stuff that y'all didn't agree upon, that is above and beyond the value that they have paid for. And you've got to get to a point where you understand that you have told them up front, okay, the outcome that you want cannot be achieved with your budget and this one task. And if they understand that, if you've told them that and they still decide they want to do it their way, then you're going to have to allow them to have their learning pains. But you got to stop being controlling and thinking, oh, well, I know what's best for them. No. Perhaps the Lord has ordered for them to continue to throw money down the drain until they actually listen and pony up the way they're supposed to pony up. And my friend was like, you are so right. I'm sitting here in the middle of 3 different projects, all of which are making me mad because I've gone above and beyond. And it ain't the client's fault. It's all my fault.
That
Sometimes.
is such an important piece, Christina. Thank you.
Yeah. And so I think sometimes, just to kind of sum that up, we have in our minds a perception or a condition or a standard or a desire that we have for ourselves, but there's a controlling spirit in us. And I can raise my hand because I've had it in the past, and there are moments where I have to catch myself now, that says that I know what's best for you, the next person. And going back to what the chapter is talking about, it's essentially saying keep an earnest assessment of yourself and deal in what you can deal in for you at all times.
This is why, and it's such a simple thing, but this is why I go back to color personalities. This is why I go back to the love languages, to some of the other philosophies or whatever you call those. I don't know, but for her, she's an overachiever. And also, I mean, the love language theme is so clear there. Like, she's doing things, working from her love languages. If she loves people, this is how she shows them she loves them, by service. And she expects that they recognize that for, this amazing gift that she's giving, when to somebody else, they may not recognize that at all because they have completely different love languages. And so this is where learning how humans work, it becomes so imperative, because it helps us not react. I have this little post-it up that says, respond, don't react. Because I work live chat, customer service, you guys. And sometimes it can get frustrating. And I have to pull myself back and say, okay, why is this triggering you? What's the deal here? Where are they coming from? Kind of sum up the situation a little bit. But things like that can devastate people until they understand that they do have the choice. They always have a choice in every situation. Like you said, they may not like it. If nothing else, they have the choice of how to respond to the situation. And that is probably the most important thing of all.
This chapter also, and I'm curious what you guys think, is so relevant in our what's going on in our country right now. It's like the zeitgeist of what's going on is so, it can be so overwhelming. We have so many profound social things going on in our country right now. And if you're outside the U.S., I'd be shocked if you still weren't aware of all the things that are going on. But we have racism and sexual assault and how we deal with sexual orientation and wage inequality and all these things. And quite honestly, everybody is so freaking wound tight because we are, it's in our very, like, it's in the cells of our bodies, the history, the pain, the anger, the resentment. Generationally, we remember what our parents went through. We remember what our parents went through. It's hard for us not to live in the history. And now, like I was trying to explain to someone yesterday, I'm always one of those people that probably drive people crazy because I always see that thin line in that gray area. And I'm like, we're on such a slippery slope right now on so many things. And we've got to be careful that we are not overcorrecting because we're emotionally in our history. We got to set up constructs to where we start having conversations and stop talking at each other and past each other. And so I'm curious if you guys think that this chapter can even apply so well to what we're going through in our country. Silence. Maybe not.
Oh, I was
Okay.
waiting for somebody else to jump out since, but yeah, I think it completely does. And you're right. You know, guys, we are energetic beings. Somehow, like, all of this energy stays, and we can feel, even like, I don't know, when I walk onto certain land, I mean, I can feel what has happened on that land. I mean, that energy stays somehow, and we pick up on it. And yeah, this country, well, the world, not just our country, obviously, but there's so much going on, and it goes back to what we were saying before we came on recording on camera. Actually, you know, this well, we've said it on camera too, but focusing on the positive. It's so easy with everything going on in the world to get focused on the negative. It really is. And especially if you're watching news. I mean, I don't have a TV. I don't watch news. If I have Netflix, so if I want to watch something, I can watch something that I choose to watch. But I don't pay attention. Now, some things I pay attention to, but I like plug into them. It's not something that's just on in the background all day. Like at my parents' house, they have the news running all day, every day, you know. So it's really, and I mean, I watch the news when I'm there because I'm in the room with them, and I kind of have to. And it's all so negative, you guys. I mean, I'm like, I don't know how people. It's been decades since I did that, but I did do that earlier in my life. And at some point I was like, what the hell am I doing? And I gave it up, you know, but I don't know how I survived back then. And there's a lot of people, you have to remember, there's a lot of people that's their daily life, you know, and they don't take any new steps in their life. They just live the same. It's not really a life. It's just like Groundhog Day for 70 years or something. And so first of all, you know, pat yourself on the back. If you're listening to this, if you're on this panel right now, obviously, or if you're listening to this later, pat yourself on the back for taking a step today, a step that could change your life. It's your choice if it does or not. It's your choice if you decide to read this book. And even if you read it, it's your choice whether you implement any of what it says. But is it relevant to our life? Oh my God. Like, this, you know, these concepts seem so simple. And yet, they're life-changing. They're literally life-changing. And, but you have to do them. Like and nobody can force you. And only you know when you cheat. And you have to give yourself a little bit of room. I know he says he's pretty strict in the book. He's talking about somebody waking up on a Saturday morning to the 6 a.m. alarm and hitting snooze. And he's saying, but it's just one Saturday. And his point is, yeah, but if you give in that time, you're going to give in every time. I don't know that I agree with that, you guys. Like, I think you can give yourself goodies, bonuses. If you want to give yourself an extra 10 minutes on a Saturday and you're working your ass off for the rest of the week, I say go for it. But, that's me. That may be a poor choice, and I may not be, as successful as he is. Obviously, I'm not. So he knows more what to do than I do. But I think we're human. I think we're under incredible amounts of stress. Just the input. I mean, if I just look at my favorites list or the things that I have bookmarked on my Google Chrome, for one day, that's more information than our ancestors used to get in years of their life. You know what I'm saying? I think we deserve to give ourselves a 10-minute break if we need it. What do you guys say?
Yeah, I think, listen, I might come from it from a little bit different angle than you, but I think the basic core of it is let's stop taking this information and again with the black binaries, with the black and whites. This is so much gray, so many different hues of black and white. Like, let's just stop with all this either or. I completely, for my life, disagree with the notion of being so stringent in what I will allow. Okay, look, you also got to understand who you are. Um, you know, for personality assessment, I don't know how many of you have taken the Myers-Briggs, but I took it once and I was a ESTP, and then I took it the second time I took it, I was an ENFP. I'm really not very polar on anything. I'm very in the middle of every area. I'm very in the middle, which probably explains why I'm so frustrating to people, because I like live in the grays. I live on the thin lines. I understand all sides. But one thing that it's important to know about myself is that I get bored as shit with the mundane, with the checklists, with the everyday do the same. That is more and has played a more detrimental role in my life as far as plateauing in things that I've endeavored to do than anything. Because someone said, you got to do this, this time, this way, this. And I'm telling you, that is not a winning formula for my life. Rather than trying to restrict myself, I needed to learn myself, which is the process that I've been going through for the last couple of years of learning myself to identify what's best for me and giving myself permission not to go if the crowd's going left and I know that it's best for me to go right, then I go right unapologetically. I'm not saying the crowd's wrong, but I'm also not allowing the crowd to tell me that I'm wrong, because I know me better than they do. And we've got to give ourselves permissions to step into what's best for us, to actually explore what's best for us. And we're not going to know what's best for us like right now. There's a trial and error process, and we got to give ourselves permission to go through that trial and error process too. I, for one, don't agree with the notion of never not looking at the news and not plugging into what's going on. I think that's part of why we have, like, I had a conversation with a woman yesterday who was like offended by stuff, and she's like, maybe I just live in my little bubble. And then she explained to me how she lives. Well, hell yeah, that's what it is. You live in your very little privileged bubble, and that's why you don't know why everybody's so pissed off about shit. So I feel like it's important to understand the limits. So for me, I plug in, but I understand when it's time to pull out, you know?
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, Christina, you know, really knowing yourself too. Because yeah, we can stick to this black and white view and like, okay, I always have to get up at this time and I always have to do this way. And I always have to be on top of my game, and it doesn't work that way. You know, you'll burn out and die, you know. Because it reminds me, this week I was in a seminar last weekend for 3 days for like 13 hours a day. And I had so much to do on Monday and Tuesday, and I couldn't. I was like, I need to just, you know, stare at the wall. I need to sleep. I'm going to sleep. I'm not even going to set the alarm, you know, and I knew I had things that I wanted to do to really get things moving with my product line and this and that, but I had to take care of myself. And I think that's really important that we find that balance. And I think Catherine had mentioned before, like, being focused on the end goal. And I think as long as you're focused on the end goal of what you want and you're taking care of yourself in that, it'll just work out. The universe will, you know, work it all out for you. But, you know, if you're constantly every day, like, okay, I'm going to snooze again, I'm going to, you know, or whatever, taking actions that are lazy, then that's what you're going to get. But if you have that end goal and you're, you know, most of the time, you know, working towards that, but taking also time for yourself. We have to spend time with our families. We have to shut off the computer for a day. I mean, I found that for myself last week. Like, I really have to take a day a week where there's very minimal like phone technology stuff in my field, because I just can't do it every day anymore. It's just too much information. And so, yeah, really knowing ourselves is super important, and knowing what we need, you know, how much sleep we need. And because I can't function if I don't get at least 6 hours of sleep. It's useless. I did that actually one day this week after the seminar. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up early and get some stuff done. And I was useless. I was completely useless. Like, I could be going through the motions, but I wasn't in it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take a break and enjoy the day and relax and take a nap. And then tomorrow I'll bust my ass, you know? So we have to, you know, weigh things for ourselves, definitely, but keep that end goal in the focus, and you'll get there.
Yeah, I think what a lot of what Christina was really getting a good point at is in what we all tend to do is we all really tend to so focus on the past of what's happened in the past, as pains, hurts, issues of the past, and we forget to look at where we are at now, what's come out of that from the past, and to focus and dialogue from that and from where we are at now, so we can continue to move forward towards the ultimate goal that I think overall people want in general. And I love your thoughts, Catherine, about learning the love languages of other people, because um, I dealt with this last week. My mom, I really wanted to kill my mom. I mean, she just drove me nuts in dealing with water heater. But I felt I couldn't say and do a lot because of the fact she was one providing the funds for me to be able to. But it's almost like she just took it, ran with it, got my sister-in-law involved. They got it worked out. They said, okay, it's all worked out. He's coming Saturday to get it installed. And I was like, never really consulted as when to would be a good time if I needed it sooner, you know, right away. My roommate had his daughter here. He was wanting to deal with trying to get her clean and deal with her, and we didn't have hot water. And I just really, you know, and so even though she's my mom, she doesn't understand some of how I communicate. I still get frustrated with how she communicates, and I have a hard time with trying to get her to understand where I'm coming from. So I so understand the love language thing is, that's hard to learn and understand with different people, because everybody has a different way of how, they look at what is how they are spoken to. Like for me, I love to go and do things and help people with things, and I get a thrill out of that and servicing in that sense. But when it comes to me on the other end, I think I kind of like that same aspect, but my mom does not work that way, and I'm learning to pay attention more. But you know, but if I could even just get to where I could sit down and speak with her and say, "This is where we're at, Mom. This is where we're at. This is what," kind of like you were saying, Christina, get to that point where we can move forward and find out what works for best of us, then both our lives would be easier. And I think I tend to, look at from my view, and I tend to understand other people's views, but have a hard time getting them to understand me. So that's an area I think I need to work on too. But there was a part in the book that I wanted to bring out. It says, seems most people live with one foot in the past saying, oh, if only things had been different, I would be successful. And the other foot in the future saying, when this or that happens, I will be happy. And we covered that before and stuff. And then they completely ignore the present, which is all we really have right now. And that's what we can work with, and that's what we can deal with. And knowing, keeping our focus on the end prize, like you were talking about, Sandy, that it will all eventually come to where it needs to get to. And sometimes you can allow yourself to have those moments and where you just kind of take care of yourself and what you need. And I think that's, you know, more what we need to realize is we need to look at the moment now and work from there. That's some of what I've got out of this.
Karen, we haven't heard from you. I know you're trying to be quiet because your son's sleeping, but do you have some quiet thoughts to offer?
Quiet thoughts that come out quietly. I really resonate with so much that's been said today. And first of all, I really want to congratulate Sandy, because I think I came in with being acquainted with who she was and what she was trying to do when she was talking about when she was trying to get involved with network marketing, which is now years ago. And I've seen her accomplish so much, do so much, and it's really been enjoyable to realize that she's one of the invisibles in my life. I've never met her, seen her in person, and yet, you know, she has, as really all of you do, a profound effect on me. And I'm just really proud of her, really impressed. And in thinking about assessing ourselves and the mundane, I find the mundane very boring too. I've taken the Briggs-Myers, I don't know, probably each time I've come out of an episode, and I had taken it before, and you know, I love psychology. That's my minor, and I realized, though, as we were talking today, that that assessment really hasn't done anything at all for me, except to make me realize that I am as much introverted as extroverted. I always saw myself as a real extroverted person, but because I came out of that test every time on the line, and always, you know, with my mouth agape, really, I've started to realize that, yes, I don't like being alone all the time. I don't like being lonely, but for me, that's something I have to have. And it's important that I not have to be explaining myself all the time to someone else about why I feel that way. And talking about people being in a bubble, my father and brothers have all three at different times, and I don't know if they even are aware that they agree on this, but I've heard from each of them a description about my mother, about how she lived in her own world. And I was always confused about that, didn't really want to ask about that, because I thought that probably was a reflection of how they saw me as well. But one time I talked to my brother and I said, tell me what you mean when you say that. And he said, well, she lies. I said, oh, really? So give me an example. Help me understand what you're talking about. And he described how she would talk about a conversation with my father to a friend, and that those things, that wasn't true. And I said, the interesting thing about people who have a long time relationship and people who um, have had lots of conversations with one another is it's kind of like, I think it was Christina was saying that we have all these things in ourselves. You have all those pieces and fragments of conversation in you, and maybe how you tell the story to someone else isn't just that one example that it sounds like you're telling. It's really kind of an amalgam of all of it. But it's really important. I mean, both my parents are gone. It's really sad to me that really none of us kids had a better understanding of my mother and how she functioned and how she thought and how she saw things, because kind of like Dan was saying, people's lives can be so improved if you can communicate better, if you can understand better where the other person is coming from and recognize, okay, that sounds like a lie to me, but yeah, I'm sure that this was part of the whole thing in the past. I don't know if any of that makes any sense, but I am doing a lot of reflecting on how I need to do my life. What's left of it, I need to do it in accordance with what's best for me, because I have always been so influenced by what other people say. And if you say something and it sticks in my craw, whether it's good or bad, it's kind of stuck there for quite a while. And I'm trying to work it out and figure out how it applies to me, or if it applies to me. And, for one thing, like Sandy, I need to get more sleep. I was thinking the other day how hard I work to get 6 hours of sleep in a night. And, when have I ever in my life ever focused on 7 hours of sleep or 8 hours of sleep? Because, I'm a human being like everybody else. I probably need more sleep than I've ever allowed myself to have. And, there's just lots of things that we need to assess and we need to decide for ourselves, and, walk the thin line, walk the gray line, walk whatever line we need to walk our line.
That's beautiful. And a perfect segue into this chapter actually asks you to do some honest self-assessment. It's really interesting to me how offended people get when people lie. and I'm going to raise my hand because I have a family member that is a compulsive liar, and it ate me up for years. Like, that just dug in my craw for years and years and years, until finally I realized everybody lies. I lie every day, mostly to myself, not other people. But, I try not to lie to people anyway, but I lie to myself all the time, and most people do. And one of the things that this chapter asks you to do is to really do an honest self-assessment, to ask yourself and be really honest and don't let yourself get away with the fibs. Like, ask yourself, I'm backtracking here. Let me get to the part of the book. Okay, do an honest self-assessment. Look at these 7 areas of your life. So I want you to write these down. Look at yourself. Look at your health. Are you building your health every day? Are the way you eat, the way you exercise, the schedule you keep? You were just talking about not getting enough sleep. I'm getting like 2 hours sleep a day right now, guys. It's crazy. And if it weren't for amazing nutritionals, I would be dead. I'm just telling you. So, but I'm going to need that skincare line because it's showing up on my face. I can tell you that. I may still be functioning, but I'm looking like shit. So anyway, you know, are you building your health, or are the actions that you're taking on a daily basis, the food you're eating, things like that, are you diminishing your health? Okay, that's the first one. Second one is take an honest look at your happiness. Do you take time every day to notice the things you're grateful for? When you wake up in the morning and you hit that snooze, you know, do you wake up and hit the snooze, or do you wake up, turn the alarm off, and think of 3 things that you're grateful for right off the bat? That was something he mentioned in this chapter. Do you practice savoring the moment and regularly expressing your appreciation of others? Do you engage in activities that are meaningful to you, not because you have to, but because you want to? That's huge, guys, right there. Are you building your happiness every day, or are you focusing on the negative shit and building your unhappiness? Because you're going one way or the other. Okay, look at your relationships. Look at your friends. Look at your family. Are you building those relationships? Are you doing things to improve those relationships? And I'm going to throw in here, are you praying for those people? If you believe in prayer, are you praying for the people that you love, for the people that you are frustrated and upset with? You need to especially pray for those situations. You know, are you staying in touch with people? Are you doing meaningful exchanges? Or are you just, you know, throwing your new business at them? Are you, if you're married, you know, it mentions a plant here, like how you would tend to a plant. Are you watering that daily? Are you paying attention to love languages? If you don't know about love languages and you are in a romantic relationship, which I don't think anybody on this panel is in a romantic relationship. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. But, you know, if you are in one, you definitely need to know love languages, because like I learned so much that I just thought people were just, you know, I mean, I had judgments about people because I didn't understand that they were looking at things from this other completely way. And I'm pretty much in the gray. I'm with you there, Christina. You know, I stay in the gray a lot, but still, sometimes I just would like, well, why, you know, just butting heads with somebody. And then once I learned the love language, it completely made sense. What about your family?
I'm in a relationship.
You are? Okay, good. I'm glad somebody.
They didn't win the whole time we've known each other.
Good. So what about your family, children, parents, brothers, sisters? Are those relationships getting closer or further apart? And in this day and age where we're all living in our own little place, you know, we used to do community living, communal living, tribal living. And it was much different then. Now we're all in our own little space and with our own little electronics, you know, and sometimes we don't even come in contact with a human person, a human being in person, physically in the day. You know, if you work from home, you may just not see another human being in the day. So are you taking the measures to keep those relationships alive, even though there's that much space between us? And oftentimes families are in different states and different things. Take an honest look at your finances. Now, people lie to themselves about their finances constantly. And I'm going to throw in here, in a way, you kind of have to lie to yourself. Like you have to, in a certain kind of way, you have to keep that end vision of being financially free. You have to keep that feeling of financial freedom in your heart at all times. Because sometimes if you just look at the reality of the checkbook and you focus on that, like you're going to be in a world of pain. So don't focus on that. But you have to be honest with yourself. You know, are you living within your means? Are you running up your credit cards? Are you really, you know, taking the steps to make your finances what you want? And you know, I'm not telling you have to be a millionaire. You might not want to be a millionaire. There's a lot of people don't want to be a millionaire. But are you providing for your family? You know, are you okay for the future? I mean, there are some things that we have to, you know, face reality and pay attention to sometimes. You have to pay the bills, you got to write the checks, things like that. If you're a business owner, now this is, and I'm throwing myself out on the train track right now, y'all. If you're a business owner, you need to get your business finances in order. Like, I am so disorganized. I have to get this stuff together. Because we have governmental agencies that require a certain amount of organization. So I'm telling you, get organized, get serious about it. And I think I've been holding myself back by not doing that. I think, well, my business is growing faster than I can keep up with it. But I think once I get those things in place, it's going to grow even faster. So the next thing is take a look at your career. That kind of goes with finances too. You know, are you taking the steps? Whatever you want. I'm not telling you what you have to be, but whatever you want for your life, are you taking the steps to get there? Or are you just, you know, a sheeple, just kind of following the pack and trying to do what they're doing? And that's just like Christina said, you got to find your own way. And then let's take an honest look at your impact on the world. Now, this is a big one, you guys, because a lot of people don't feel like they have an impact on the world. Most people don't feel like they have an impact on the world. Some people have no interest in having an impact on the world. They're just trying to get through day-to-day survival. But what they don't realize is we all impact the world every day with everything that we do because we're energetic beings. So it doesn't matter whether you want to impact the world, you're doing it right now. I've been talking a long time. I'm going to step out. I know we're running a little bit over. Come on and give me your closing comments, and then we'll end it up for the day.
Well, I think I like to give tools, and so one of the tools that's helped me is to learn compassion for myself, and then learning compassion for myself. It's been amazing how much the history. I even bring that compassion to my history. So the relationships or the injustices that I feel that have been done against me, or whatever, the thing that has caused me all this angst that perhaps has brought a block in my life, whatever. Because I've learned compassion for myself, I started learning compassion for the world. And so with every day, if you approach things with compassion, automatically you allow for the space for grace, such that whatever might be done against you or whatever, you're able to at least ask the person or assess the situation with questions. What was your intent? And be open to receiving whatever is given back to you. Because sometimes things are unintentionally done to us, and we get stuck on that. Boy, I wish we had more time, because Dan, listening to you the last time you were talking, I was thinking we need to do, something on unconditional love. But when you have compassion, you start to give the world unconditional love, and I've noticed that in giving unconditional love, once I understood what it really was, boy, I've been receiving the hell out of some unconditional love, and that's a great thing. So I would think that would be a tool that I would suggest as you go through the week.
Closing thoughts, anybody else?
I was going to say, for me, I think the fact that you went over that list and that self-assessment, that's a good place that I need to work out of, just kind of reviewing everything and putting things in perspective. But two, remembering to, on a regular basis, kind of come back to that, some things maybe every day, other things maybe once a week or something, to help keep my, you know, how am I going here on what I'm wanting to achieve and get to, and am I really working towards that, and not letting myself be so reactionary in some things, because I think I tend to get a little reactionary on some things, and then it carries forward and affects other things, and I don't want it to affect those other things. And I think that's something I just took out of this.
Any other closing comments?
Yeah, that list was very nice. Yeah, I think it's important to evaluate all those things, at least maybe seasonally or twice a year or something like that, just to get an idea of where we're at on each area of our life. I think it's important, and then we can, tweak from there. But I also want to receive all the goodness around my product for acknowledging that, Catherine and Dan and Karen and Christina, because a lot of times too, we're doing things on our own in business, and it can feel lonely sometimes. And I posted my things on my pictures of my products on Instagram and Facebook, and I get a lot of wows and awesome, but it's not the same as hearing your voices say it to me. So thank you so much for that. And thank you. It was a good discussion. It went so fast, and there's so much more to say. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yes, thank you. And yes, it did go too fast, and there is so much more to say. Karen, did you have any closing comments, honey? You're muted. Oh, there you go.
I'm having such a hard time manipulating. I'm sorry. You would think, being a practice manipulator, I could apply it to electronics, but I don't seem to do that so well. We could all sing happy birthday to Sam. I just feel such gratitude for this mastermind, and it contributes so much to my life, and I always enjoy it when we have all so many different ones of us here. So I'd just like to thank everybody for showing up.
And thank you for showing up, honey. And yes, the reason I'm hosting today is because it's Samantha's birthday. So happy birthday. We hope you have the best one yet so far. I never say ever because I don't want to close anybody in on their best birthdays, but we hope that you're out there having an amazing time. So join us on our Facebook page, Mindset Mastery Collective. You can also find us at SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. And this replay will be up on our YouTube Mindset Mastery Collective YouTube page, probably within the next few hours. So thank you, everyone. We'll be covering chapter 11. And for those in a earlier part of earlier series of the book, we'll have to talk in chat and see which chapter that is for you. But it's been an amazing conversation. If you read the chapter, one of the things he talks about is, don't watch that television show because you should be doing better things. But the rebel in me just has to say, sometimes I get more inspiration and more life lessons from suddenly following my guidance and being told to go watch this. And if I'll just go watch it, there's a message there for me. So I'm not saying sit on the soap opera. Do they even have soap operas anymore? I don't know. But I'm not saying sit on the soap operas all day. But what I am saying is follow your guidance. Sometimes look for the signs. Sometimes, something will tell you, go watch this because there's a message there for you. And it doesn't mean to make a habit out of squandering your time, but you know, I watch some shows with a lot of sword fighting and things like that, but there's like this communal message there, and there's this message about never giving up, and there's this message about having faith in God, and there's all of these things that come through that little show that I decide I'm going to tune out of life for a minute and take a breather and watch that, and I get these amazing life lessons and reinforcements. So always stay open to your guidance. We love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be here. I think we're going to be here next week. Have we talked about whether we're going to be here next week since it's Thanksgiving? We may not be here next week, so if you're on our Facebook page, go ahead. Go ahead.
Next week is my birthday, and it is not Thanksgiving. Since I have the birthday date that I do, sometimes it is, you know, every 7 years it is Thanksgiving. But I've already had this discussion with my sister, and I thought to myself today how much it would mean to me if we could all get together. I do understand.
Oh, well, I have no problem getting together, so we'll talk about it in the chat, and we'll figure that out. If nothing else, those of us that can get together, we'll jump on a Zoom, and those that can't can be with their families. How's that?
Very cool. Thank you.
All right, honey. All right, love you guys. Have an awesome week. Keep stepping forward. It's okay to give yourself a break. Live in gratitude. Focus on the positive. We got this shit. Love you guys.